You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
Hello and welcome to what is going to be a very long video. I apologize for the length, straight out the gate. This is my first time recording it. I assure you it's going to be long. I already know it's going to be long, because it is a huge topic. So, starting out. Pause the video, read that, come back when you're done. Alright, so Recon, right? Answering the real questions before they're asked. What is Recon, right? So, Recon is short for reconnaissance. It's the act of, however you're going to say that, because I'm not even going to try. In a military sense, it's search for military information in the field by examining the ground. And that's about how it is used in this context as well. General examination or survey of a region, also very true. Okay, so how do we recon, right? So recon is simply finding out information. I a lot of times start here. You would be amazed at the amount of information that Google gives. And that all said, we'll dive into that in a little bit. We'll talk about how you can use Google as a hacking tool, because there are a lot of and I don't mean just Googling how to hack. Okay, everyone can type that. I'm talking about like Google Dorks and finding things that weren't supposed to be there, right? But first, let's start with the typical recon. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to throw up Kali. Okay, and when you log into your Kali instance, you'll probably find that it's 800 by 600. That's kind of standard. So go ahead and click on there and say display, right? And we're going to change this to something more realistic. I'm going to go with that because it fits. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a terminal. We're going to press Control++ a few times so that it's easy for everyone to read, including myself. It is important. So we're going to talk a little bit real quick about DNS. Okay, I say real quick. It's not going to be real quick. DNS is a huge topic. It's also extremely useful when hacking. Okay, so first thing you need to do is you need to understand how to use a few command line tools. Okay, NSLOOKUP is what I see people use often, right? So you can just say google.com, and there you go. You get all those answers. It tells you the server that it asked for, right? Or the server it asked to get the information. And you can change that by simply saying server 1.1.1, use Cloudflare. I use my own internal one, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But clear that. Okay, so I don't use NSLOOKUP. It's not enough information for me. I use DIG, which is the Domain Information Groper, which is a terrible name. Whoever decided to use the word groper in any name just needs to be shot. Even if you said grabber, it's still better. Anyway, Domain Information Gatherer, right? DIG. DIG can do a lot of things, but DIG can filter. DIG can do zone transfers, for instance. We'll start with your typical DIG query. DIG google.com, right? So this is going to tell you it got a header, right? It tells you what version of DIG, which is important to know also. It'll tell you your header, right? It will also tell you an answer section. Notice this is an answer section, and we'll get into that in a second. It tells you what server it hit. It tells you the query time. 0 milliseconds. How is that possible? Simple. I used cache. I used my own internal cache. Oops. Now, I'm hitting something else that is not internal cache. But guess what? It's really deserved for local multicast. But anyway, it did hit my server, right? And it hit that server there in 0 milliseconds because my server's quick. And that's the name for my my Minecraft server. Anyway, moving along. So that's DIG, right? But we're not done. I know people are like, man, that's it? No, that's not it. So dig can do lots of things. Like, for instance, if you want only the answer section instead of all that jazz, you can say short, right? And then you can say, what kind of record do you want? Maybe you want the name server for google.com. There you go. What if I want the text records? Now, a lot of times I put the text at the back like that. That's just me, because it's easy to do. So there are all the text records. And you're like, well, that's all great and cute and everything, but how is that helpful? Well, I'll tell you how it's helpful. We know that they use Facebook domain verification. So if this was a normal site, we're not talking about doing this for real. We're talking about if there was a client, right, and we were allowed to use phishing. Well, now I know they use Facebook. I also know they use DocuSign. So both of those things right there, I can start a phishing campaign because I know they use those services. It's not going to trip their radar as much, right? I don't think Google is actually using Office 365. So if I start sending an Office 365, that's instantly in the trash bin, right? And most of the time, fish are going to go in the trash bin anyway. I'm not saying that you send a fish and it's all over with. I'm just saying that, you know, at least you do know some type of information about them already. Okay, and you can also do an A record, and you see that they use DNS round robin because they have several services for google.com. And don't confuse google.com, which is a domain, with a subdomain, because they are different. As you see here, they are very different. Okay, www is a host record. Blank is a host record. Actually star, but anyway. And there's also other records. Like there's quad A for IP6, right? There's CNAMEs. And guess what? CNAME's not going to tell you what you think. You got to get rid of that short, and then you'll see that there's an empty in the CNAME because there is no answer section. And because there is no answer section, the short isn't going to tell you anything, which maybe that's what you wanted. But I'm simply letting you know that that's why I didn't come back with anything. And most likely the same with that, right? So CNAMEs are used as an alias. So it might be www, but it also might be www2, because I've seen that, or www2, or www. Anyway, sorry, I just hate saying that. So there's all of those information, right? Let's do someone else. Let's do craftycontrol.com, right? So that's an interesting IP. I wonder if we looked up who that was. Maybe we don't even need to do that. Maybe we can just look up the name server and figure it out. And I guess I know who's probably using their hosting services through. Now I can start trying to fish them using that, right? What kind of mail server do they have? Oh, look, that's an interesting one. That's a no-name place. That's a rentmydatacenter.com. Who? You know, so obviously now we have another domain we can start looking into, right? We can start trying to figure that out. Quick hint, the site's dead. Everything's dead because the whole project's dead. So you can try to crack that mail server all you want. It's not there. I'll show you. Right, it's not there. Anyway, so back to the whole looking up MX records, right? I don't think google.com would have those kind of MX records. But what about Disney? Oh, look, Disney probably uses Office 365 because they're on Outlook.com. So right there, you already know some more information. But and that's all well and good. I mean, it is. But you got to start guessing host. And this is where DNS fuzzing comes in. You can sit there and start looking up things like Mickey. Is there a Mickey? Oh, there is. Is there a Minnie? No, there's not. Is there a Donald? Nope. But this is where Recon comes in. You can start guessing things. Like Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Oh my. What is Huey, I wonder? What might Huey be? Well, it's not an MX record. It's It's not a system of authority. I wonder. Hold on, I'll find it. I will. Ooh, that's a lot of text records. Cisco domain verification, DocuSign again, right? All these wonderful things here, right? So there's all those things, right? So you can see a lot of information is gleaned from here. DNS is very nice to hit. It's one of the first things that I tell people to hit when they're trying to do recon. I also tell them to try to do a zone transfer. I'm asking for all records here in a zone transfer. Okay? And it didn't work. You know why? Because my server is not allowed to do a zone request from that zone. However, what if I knew a server that I can query that is allowed to hit that? Well, that's not right. So I guess CloudFront's not able to hit there. But I wonder if I knew a name server that maybe I got from somewhere else. Oh, look at that. So that name server is allowed to do stuff. Now, how would I have gotten this name server? Well, it's possible that I used a script to automatically start fudging a bunch of DNS names to try to figure this out. DNS caused DDoSes do happen. There's also record exhaustion, where the cache just can't keep up and it crashes the server. That's happened before. So if you know how to hit certain sites, you can actually kind of like, I hit here, which then asked here, and then float it back. So this is a full-on DNS zone, right? And all of these are queryable, such as, the start of, system authority, MX records, A records, all that stuff. But now we start getting into things we didn't know. Like now we know that they use this Office product, which is a web-hosted Office product, and here's the server it's at. So if we know what kind of exploits are available on here, we now know a host we can start hitting. Okay? Look, we got to call or email Pippa, okay, when making DNS changes. So maybe I should, I don't know, fish that email address and start saying, hey, I need to add this to a DNS query, right? What if I want to take over their website? Oh, look, there's the domain controller in their office, right? Here's a quad A. So we know they are using IP6 inside their environment, right? So all of this stuff in here is highly helpful to note. Oh, look, we also, here's another thing people don't know about the SOA record, and I'll get to that in a second. So the SOA record, okay, it's very important. A lot of information in this one thing. You would be amazed. Oh, look, cross-site scripting. Cute. I think I saw Shellshock in here also. Oh, look, there it is, Shellshock. And look, a CNAME for these two places. So we know that these two servers all kind of talk to each other and whatnot. Anyway, so this guy is the primary DNS server, right? This is an email address, believe it or not. You simply substitute that first dot for an @ symbol, and you have the DNS, or the email for the person responsible for DNS. Okay? This wonderful number here is the serial number for the domain. Okay? This is normally checked by secondary servers to see if anything's changed. Okay? And then this number here is how long a secondary server should wait before requesting a change. This number here is the amount of relay time that you should wait, right? This number is how long a secondary name server should claim to be authoritative. This here, 3600, is the minimal TTL for that domain. Okay, how long before it's refreshed? Here's something interesting to note. If you do SOA on Google.com, they use 60 seconds. That's It's pretty insane. I've seen, like, 6 hours, right? 5 minutes, but 60 seconds is a lot. So that's a ton of information in DNS, but there's more information than just using this. Okay, that's one great way to do some quick recon with DNS, and that's good information. Don't get me wrong, but there are other ways that you can figure things out. Okay, there are services such as Shodan. So what is Shodan? Shodan is a great tool to explore things. Okay, it is a pay-to-use service. It's free for a certain amount, but then after a while it gets a little expensive. But then again, you can get a lot of results. Okay, so with Shodan, you can hit an IP, any IP, doesn't matter who, and then tell you what they see. Okay, and it's good to look at from a historical point of view. I normally check Shodan even after I've done a ping sweep or I've done a port sweep across a host, because it's very possible that something has changed between now and then. Okay, so if we go to Kali and we have Google here, right? And let me use a different server. But let's say we got the IP from Kali, and we're going to look up this server here. Okay, Shodan has not crawled it. Okay, which is fine. That happens. All right. Normally, Shodan will crawl places that are a little more open. Right. So let's try this one. See if this fails or works. It's taking its sweet time. It's trying. I may have hit the paywall, I'm not sure. You know what? We'll use this one. So that was a mistake. You can't really dig. I mean, obviously it did work, but not the way I intended it to. So we're going to hit this server here. Copy. Paste. Search. Okay, so guess who this belongs to? Me. Alright, so this is DigitalOcean, right? We know that this guy is running OpenSSH on port 22. What a moron. We've got Apache on both of those. Okay, and so you can look here and you can see a lot of things straight out the gate. You can see the key type that is used for OpenSSH. You can see what algorithms and encryption ciphers it allows, cipher schemas. You can see lots of information from here. You can also do things like just poke around. Look for webcams that are wide open, because there are some. Lots of them, actually. You can look up things with default passwords, right? So this actually tries the default passwords, which is great, right? Now in this case, none of these are really open, but and to use these, by the way, is if you were to go into them, that's when you're breaking the law. Just looking through here, this is just a website I'm looking at. I'm simply perusing data, but you can also you can explore other things, such as you can say, let's look for databases. MySQL, for instance. This is a pay feature, by the way. You have to pay for it. So Shodan, great thing, right? Good thing to look at. Shodan does have dorks available. You can look for a particular city, country, host name, right? You can look up all of these different ones, and you can look up Wi-Fi passwords and stuff. So Shodan's cool. Here's a good hint: hit them on Black Friday. It's very cheap on Black Friday. There's also DNS Dumpster, which is another way for you to look at the DNS of a IP over time, right? So we see that they had a lot of Google, and then all of a sudden they went DigitalOcean. Okay? And now we get to talk about passive DNS. So passive DNS, there are very few free ones. There's Spamhaus, who does allow a free version. You get 20 queries per day, 200 queries per month. Now, what is passive DNS? So all of these things we're doing active DNS. I'm actually the one doing all the mapping and the querying and whatnot. But this actually will let you, via API or their website, actually look at their records that they do. This is more OPSEC, okay? OPSEC meaning that you are trying to hide the fact you're doing anything. So if Spamhaus always hits their DNS, why should you hit their DNS? Just have them use it, right? And again, use those other tools I showed you earlier, the Whois tool and stuff like that. Okay? Other things you can do, right? There's Google. Huge help using Google. There are Google dorks. If you go to exploitdb.com, they actually have a listing of all of the things you can look for, right? So you can look for DB username and passwords on those. You can look for hidden folders, such as WordPress content plugins, the file manager, readme.txt, right? So you can Google this in a URL, and you can find where that might be, right? Google tells you tons of information. You can look for particular files, right? You can look for index of mysql.sh. That's possibly a bad one, right? Any index of is something you should look for. And with Google, you can also lock it down per site, right? You can look up to see not only, hey, is it in the site, but also does the file attachment have PDF? Look up for PDFs. Look up documents. Look up all those things. And it's not hard to do. That was not actually the thing, but you can look up all this stuff, right? So these are all things, and what are wildcards and stuff you can do. Time ranges, file types, right? This is what I was trying to get to. File type, PDF, right? And it's because I'm signed into my Google. Otherwise, I just don't want you guys to see what I Google, because sometimes I do Google things. And quit giggling. I can hear you laughing. Stop laughing. What it is where I don't want to leak information of somewhere I'm worked at or done, right? So, good example, you may have noticed a good cut during the Shodan sequence. I still had the Shodan tab open from where I was helping out somebody, and I looked up some information for them through Shodan, and I left the IP in there, and the tab was still open. And so I was like, crap, I have to stop the video now and go cut that out. So, it's hard making these things, believe it or not, for you guys. It's very difficult. Anyway, so I think we're on time, or close to it. So that's a good idea of how to do recon, right? Google is huge. It is very powerful. I can't express it enough. And look up Google Dorks. Okay, you can look up here a lot of other ones, and this is a good toe dipping into how to get into recon. There are other things you can do, more nefarious things you can do that still go under recon a little bit, like using Nmap on a network. We'll cover that here soon as well. All right, I think we'll call it for this one. Again, educational use only. Do the like, subscribe, thingamabobber. I didn't say that last video. I'm not going to say them every video because it's just dumb. But whatever. Share this amongst your friends and have a good day.